Okay, where do we want to start? What is differentiation? What are some things that you start seeing over and over when we talk about identifying DI? Do you see anything that keeps coming up in our discussions and last week and this week and this article and websites and everything?
All inclusive.
All inclusive.
Individualized.
Individualized. Anything else?
Grouping.
Grouping. Yep. Yep. So how do we get started with DI? I had a good conversation going on over here. When we think about the non-DI classroom, we think about that very traditional way of learning the rows, the direct lecture to our students, right? That is a very traditional industrial way of learning that our kids are no longer fitting into that mold anymore. So what are some strategies that you are aware of now, kind of being second session now, that would contribute to this DI vision? What are some getting started strategies you think?
I like the idea of starting with student choice.
Okay.
Saying, and I can picture myself starting small with it, like saying, for this unit, I'm going to offer a choice for this assignment instead, and then maybe next unit, offering choice more often, and
Okay.
Kind of building on it, but allowing a choice in the activity that they use to look into it further.
Has anyone worked with choice before? What is your experience with choice? Is it positive for your kids, for the most part? It's positive. It's positive. I know I can speak to it. It's positive. I think especially as we get older, especially junior high, high school kids, we have to kind of justify more, I think. Whereas the little ones come in, hug you and love you, and they'll do what they want you to do most of the times, right?
Our choice, I think, is different in a way, at least in my classroom.
Yeah.
Is that for a second grader, they are very excited to have a choice as to whether or not they listen to reading that day, or just read to a buddy that day, or read to themselves that day.
That's
so,
wonderful.
Giving them the choice of what type of reading they're going to do for the
Sure.
day, and it's only for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a huge deal to them.
So are you kind of patting yourself on the back in some of this exploration that we're doing? Like, yay, I'm already doing some of this stuff.
Yeah, but I always think too, like, it's hard to be working with a differentiated group. Like, you're maybe doing a reteaching lesson, or you're working with your group, and you have your other students doing some differentiation with reading, and still finding, you still have to manage.
Absolutely.
I mean, this group is starting to laugh, and this group's starting to do this, and you have to stop this group, and then
to give this group the look, and I understand.
So
I get it.
So, I think it's still, a learning process for me, trying to just establish that common ground, or get that mean look that says, stop that,
Right.
without me having to leave my group.
Right.
So.
And I would probably argue that a lot of our kids, regardless of what age level they fall, that's a very different learning environment for them too. So maybe they just don't know how to conduct themselves, and maybe it's up to us to kind of really model that thinking for them. Good. The benefits, to student and classroom benefits of DI. Anybody want to speak to this? Anything that spoke to them? Anything? Candy had to write on there twice.
Yes, because I like that it makes students responsible for their learning.
One of the things that, and we can kind of put this in this myth category, that there's this, because we implement things like DI, there's the rigor is lost. Where I feel when we put strategies in place for kids, that only empowers them more. And so when they are empowered, they're able to take a hold of that responsibility, gain more from their learning, be more intrinsically motivated, so we don't have any of these carrots and stick things going on in their learning. They are just naturally motivated to do what they need to do. So the elements of DI, looks like we see like flexibility, we see choice, we see a lot of themes forming here, flexible grouping, current level of functioning, and then taking them where they are and hopefully raising their levels up with certain tools that we can apply. Okay, good. So I kind of wanted to have this discussion today as we move forward. If you think back to that inventory that you took, is there a specific area that you want to think about? Now at this point I might encourage you to, if you have your own phones, you want to get on the PB Works, you can get in the Chromebooks. I know it's working on 4 o'clock. I don't want to keep you if you don't want to hang out. But I kind of would like to get a pulse of like what everybody would want to specifically work on and how I can facilitate that, because next week I see this being more like a workshop time for us. You know, bring your lesson plan book, bring your materials, let me just facilitate and give you time to work, is how I see next week going. And not being loaded down with me yammering at you. So if you want a moment to kind of explore and think about it, or if you already know, I'm gonna kind of like maybe make some notes if you want, and then if you want to skedoodle, you can. You want to hang out and talk, I'm here. But I just kind of want to get a pulse as to like where you want to go. And if you can't answer that tonight, if you want to shoot me an email before next Monday, that gives me enough time to like dig up some resources for you and kind of help you out a little bit. Hopefully. Sound good? Okay. Did everybody sign the sign-in sheet? There's a sign-in sheet rolling around. And
Sarah, I feel like, or when I look at this, I think, oh, this is the starting place, and this is the fully achieved ending. Disappeared. The fully achieved ending place, like when you've mastered it, this is where you're at.
I think about fundamentals and then all the way down to.
Right. But for some reason, I really want to learn about this whole anchor activities, grouping, and tiering, but I don't know if that's going like way cart before the horse.
No.
Okay.
That
This
it
is
may
just an
seem
order you
that
had
it's
to put
just,
it in.
these are just like components and elements of
Okay.
BI.
Okay, I'm really interested in the whole anchor activities, grouping, tiering.
So would you like to develop an anchor activity? Is that kind of maybe what your goal is?
Yeah, I know today I found that
Can I-
felt like
Because here's the great thing about, I can't speak for seventh grade, but I mean, your eighth graders already know how to do this because they hear that term
Right.
from me.
but I mean,
Right,
it has to
um,
also like
I haven't had a chance to explore
It is harder
very
to-
much, and so I guess I don't really.
Like, I feel like then you do the lesson. And then
Yeah, I wanna
you
figure out how you
write them,
implement
and then they
anchor
can-
activities
and I
into
want to
how
walk
this,
around.
how I could weave this in without going, okay, I'm closing the door on my old classroom and opening a new, brand new complete. I'd like to figure out how I can kind of start to weave these things into what I've got going.
Do you have Bell?
And I don't really want to use them.
I do not use Bellwork, I have in the past, but I
just
don't.
feel like I want.
Because to me, that's the
I would
easiest
love
way
to
to
do
start
it.
that, is if your students have ever done
So.
Bell.
want
But
to
I do
see
Bellwork more
in that
frequently.
activity.
Yeah, I used to do Bellwork all the time, and I found that it,
But I don't have to grade something that's.
either I didn't
a
wanna
worksheet.
make it the most
Maybe
productive,
it
or
is
I
all
didn't feel like it was the best use of student.
I don't know. Or,
I can tell you how I do it,
to do,
and then I can tell you,
whenever they have
I mean,
these choices.
let's start off with what it is. Anchoring a series of activities or an activity that productively engages students in the content that you want to explore. And this can be done, weekly, this can be done daily, this can be done by the unit. But it's supplemental material that just allows students to have more freedom in their exploration. So this, how I use it is that I develop anchors that are on the gifted scale and then all the way down to the supportive scale, and I put everybody up to do together. So it takes a little bit more planning on my part, but if I plan them for the unit, which that's where I would recommend that you would go here, like if you plan them for the unit, then kids can work at their own pace. They can work on that, cause I know that you probably have to have those times when there's, okay, shit, there's 7 minutes left, even if it takes 7 minutes, right? So, and like an anchor would be very perfect. for
Right, and
those.
that's what I picture, cause I spend, we do a lot of whole group instruction, cause we're going over the photosynthesis equation or whatever, we do that all together as a group, and then I turn them loose to practice it, or to share it with their partners or whatever, and then some of them are done. Yep, we did it, we got it, some of them are still, need to spend more time on it. So, I'm picturing being able to say, okay, when you are done with whatever it is I've asked you to do, take out your anchor activity, is that, okay.
Here's how I started. The way I started with anchors in my classroom is that I started with an anchor activity, and I used to do it on a weekly basis, so I used to create them each week. And what I used to do for those things, and I'll openly admit this, they used to be the fluffy things, the things that I never got time to do. So like, draw something, or make a cartoon,
I mean, that may be
or.
fun, though,
Yeah.
because then they reinforce what you were working on.
Exactly, I mean, they were helpful as far as like, oh, my cartoon reflected my conversations, you know, I made some.
But they don't like other kids
Right, now, as my anchors have evolved, I've done them by units, so like this last unit that we just done, I had students create a blog, I had students create, a series of interview questions and interview a community member and tape it, and then I had, students do a podcast. So they had 7 days to do that, but everybody had to achieve all that in 3 weeks, so they just rotated in groups, they could pick the groups, and they rotated the tasks. But that was a 3-week unit, I mean, that lasted all 3 weeks, but again, I had the flexibility of what time that you did, so like, I would think, especially getting started, make one, right, and just see how that goes. And see,
So
the thing
just
is,
any activity that I feel
Yeah.
like they can work on
And it was
independence,
just
just
wonderful.
that
I
will
mean, that
reinforce
was
whatever
just this to a T.
we are.
Because she
in the
met
process
with
of
and see,
learning
this-
as our
every day.
group.
this is this is where they think very creative, because you have to cover this material, and for whatever reason, it may not be the most interesting, but you have to cover it,
Doing
but
other
they
things,
get their
I never
interest
saw
in
them
it.
off task. Like,
So they wanna
knew
finish
what
what
to
you
do,
have
and
going on
it was
here,
just
right?
like,
Can I go back and work on my anchor?
But it was more individual work.
And a lot of times I build my
I
anchors,
saw
this is
what
how I
she
used to
did
do it,
with
and I still continue to think about it. I build with the gifted in
More
mind.
loud. It was easy.
Because I can always give organizers and things to others that might be help.
Right.
But if I build with the gifted in mind,
No, it was all
and
different.
if
for
someone
kids.
like,
So, like, usually
if someone
for
who
math,
may
she
not be
would start
considered
with a number
gifted does
talk or
not,
something, and then talk about the concept.
does not get it,
It
doesn't,
wasn't
email.
very
Yep.
long.
please do.
Yep.
Yep,
Will.
thank you, thanks, have a good night.
Bye.
Then like the low kids would still be on the same thing that the high
Like,
kids did like a week ago, and she would just keep going. And the both of them,
So they were a strong leader, but then he's probably sitting right next to like Kelly to get
I don't know.
right.
I
I mean, they may
not
not
in
be
my
good.
room.
Oh my gosh, I think last year like, we had Colson and Kate sitting right next to each other, right?
So
So
they
like,
all
I would
rotated
build stuff
through
for
all five
Kate and then
different
break
things,
things down
'cause they
for
had,
Colson.
like,
But if
at
Colson
least
didn't
an
get
hour
this
and a half to
finished,
do, like, math and
but he got his homework done, that's where I wanted, because I assigned that to him for a reason. I wanted him to get that finished. If he
And it
didn't
wouldn't
finish
work
his
here,
anchor,
yeah. So
well, that's okay, I was okay with that.
Right.
But for Tate, that was a challenge for him, and I needed, and the expectation was, I need you to finish it.
Right.
So like, I mean, if you're thinking about that.
One nice thing about science is,
Do you have an area you wanna work on? Okay,
But
that's
it's
fine.
into the reading, that's what I
Okay,
learned.
great, thank you.
I think it's
one nice
Okay,
thing
sounds good.
about science is that some, and you know, you pick Kate.
That's what I've been doing.
It's a high interest area for him, so even though he struggles with his comprehension and expressing himself, you know, accurately, it's something that he would like to explore, so even then it would be good
So
for
did they
him.
do a mini lesson then during the daily five?
All right, well, that's what I wanna look
So
into.
like,
It depended
I know
what she
you do,
wanted to do,
like the periodic tables, right?
then she
Yeah.
would be able to like work
Yeah,
with
I'm
her
just
both
trying to think of some of your
longer,
units.
and,
So like
work
with
with
the
what
periodic
they
table
each
unit,
kid
I
needed
mean,
for like her, for
you could do something
Like she
like,
knew, they all like had like a drawer, like with what they were working on.
I'm just trying to
They
think,
would
like
pull it out and
the
each all
foldable
different
things that you do with their names.
She like
Yeah.
knew.
That could be an
That's what I
anchor,
was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh,
as
was
opposed to
cool.
like assigning that for homework.
It was
Do
definitely.
you get what I mean? So you're
Yeah.
physically giving them time in
Yeah.
class to do something, but they're just kind of chipping
It
at
was
it,
fourth,
right?
it was also fourth grade,
And so then by this time, they're gonna have a
it
finished
was a
product.
grade higher.
And I would probably argue that you would probably get a better product as opposed to just the 24 hours you might give, or however long you give them, and how you initially assign it.
Mhm.
So now you're eliminating homework, and you're giving them something purposeful to do in class that's still relative.
With the book they're reading.
You see what I mean?
And that when they
Yeah.
could, when they finish early, whatever the
Yeah,
assignment
that's
is for the day or whatever you're doing for the day,
Right.
they can just go to that
to that.
and work on finishing.
And so do your anchors, how do you assign a due date to your anchors, just like?
Right.
You know, whatever level you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. It's usually been like end of our unit, or end of our reading, or end of
Or
our.
it could be the end of the week.
Yeah.
That's up to you, you know, what length of time you think it would be appropriate for them to be working on it.
Cause how often do you turn over your units?
It's
You do it
about-
about,
We actually, well, it all depends on how you I mean, because our
think it's
textbook
interesting
is,
ideas.
actually could be considered a unit, or our chapters could be considered a unit.
Sure.
So we've got two, I could have
Yeah.
2-week units,